Glenn Ignazio comes up with us now. He'll have the military analysis, the retired Air Force Special Operations Commander, of what we've seen over the last, less than 24 hours, really. Reaction. Nobody in the Middle East ever wants to get ahead of themselves and say, all right, this is it, peace deal, or peace even is in place. But what about what's been accomplished, again, over the last few days and what was announced last night in terms of phase one? What was your reaction?
Well, the first thing is to have some positive news, as we always talk about these conflicts, is to see this moving forward. I think is the great thing. This first step that's really defined with some specifics, which is getting the hostages back, and also IDF being able to pull back to a specific line. That hasn't been determined what that is, but absolutely the best way. There's a give and take on both sides. Giving the hostages back is key, and we also see that's about 170,000 tons on deck to be pushed into Gaza as soon as this happens. So I feel great about it. Always definitely cautious optimism, and there's going to be a lot of discipline to make sure that everybody stays in check and nothing happens during this time.
Looking at some of those lines you mentioned, if we go back to the tablet here, bullet points first on what was agreed to in phase one, and then questions that remain after that, the pause in the fighting, the release of the hostages, the beginning of that withdrawal that you mentioned. Some of the questions, and there are many more that have come up, is whether Hamas really does disarm, how that can be done, who governs afterwards, and and then after that, I'll just go back to this map for a moment, because the lines here, what they mean is the blue line is the current line of control for the IDF. The yellow is supposed to be the initial withdrawal when the hostages come up. So you're backing up a bit and towards the border. Then second and third withdrawals to come. How do you actually, first of all, expect this to play out? What do you, if you had to say what you're concerned about, what would it be?
Sure. So it's going to have to be very uniformed and methodical to make sure that everybody stays in track as far as all these forces distributed across approximately 25 miles long, 6 miles wide. So that's the one case. The other thing on the hostages side is, again, Hamas is made up of about 5 other factions. So making sure that, I'm sure some of these factions have hostages, that they're all pulled together and be able to get out safely as well. The point that I was making about discipline is that on the IDF side and, of course, on Hamas, is we got to make sure that none of the soldiers or no hotheads on the Hamas side start firing. That could trigger this whole thing, and that's the thing we hope and pray that it will not get into. But we have to make sure that there's nothing that's going to be accidental that kicks off. So extreme discipline is required. The safe movement of the hostages is required. And then absolutely verifying and checking Israel moving. Those next steps that you're talking about, those are very complex, because how do you verify demilitarization will occur and so forth? So those are things they're going to have to deal with here in the coming time. But at least they got time. Hostages getting home as soon as possible, that's the best.
All of that said, then, you've been watching this, and you and I have been talking about this. We often talk about Ukraine as well, but we've been talking about this for the last couple of years. I mean, what would your assessment be, looking in from the outside, of how President Trump and his team handled all this?
Well, I think it's, again, cutting politics. I think it's great, because you talk about Witkoff and Kushner. Kushner's not in the cabinet, but these relationships that go through the Middle East, I mean, it's all about relationships and the fact of having those connections. So bringing in, Qatar, Egypt, Saudi Arabia's influence, everybody is pivotal for this. And the other thing is, as we move forward about who's going to govern Gaza, you've heard some weeks ago about this Bureau of Peace, or this group of peace, but it's going to be made up of U.S. It's going to be with the UK, but all the Arab leaders are going to be involved. And that, to me, is the best balance to frame what will happen in Gaza. And of course, Israel's have to be involved. But again, demilitarization to make sure there's no assaults against Israel in the future. We can have time to do that. But the hostages and the time that they've been suffering, getting them home alive as soon as possible is key. And that's what we're seeing. That's awesome.
It's nice to see that, isn't it, for a change? We can talk and analyze everything, back and forth, and I completely understand why people would be skeptical. It is the Middle East, after all, and so many of our analysts have been skeptical, but it's also nice to have some hope and to see hope in both sides. People, Palestinian people, as Robert mentioned, that he spoke to. I mean, these people aren't fans of Hamas. Most of the people he spoke to, they want peace. Israeli people in Tel Aviv literally dancing in the streets today.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I got to tell you, I'm happy that Robert's there, because, again, you guys take a very neutral, fair look at this, is that you're able to see, especially in Gaza, in a fair look, not angled, is what people feel of Israel, and to really get out there what people feel about Hamas. So that's great to finally hear that people are going to start hearing what's really happening in Gaza thanks to Hamas. But I think because of the movement, both on the Palestinian and on the Israeli side, celebrating this, that the political aspect of voting for this in Israel, it's political suicide if you go against this. Some will, but I do believe they have the numbers. It's absolutely the right thing to do to get these people home. Number one key to make this happen.
Yeah, we've heard some ministers maybe being against, but to your point, the numbers seem to be there. Glenn, thanks as always. Always good to talk to you. Glenn Ignacio.